The beautiful crystal cities of Valari Prime were dying. Each massive spire that had stood for thousands of years now cracked and fell like broken glass. The Scourge had arrived 3 days ago, and nothing could stop them. Elder Vextai stood in the last functioning communication center, watching his world burn through the transparent walls. His people were running everywhere, screaming in panic. These strange black creatures moved like liquid shadow, consuming everything they touched. Buildings, vehicles, even the ground itself dissolved into gray dust. The Valari had always been peaceful. They grew beautiful gardens, created art, and traded with other alien species across the galaxy. War was something they read about in old books from violent worlds. They had no armies, no weapons, no idea how to fight back. "Send the message again," Vextai told his communications officer, his voice shaking. Outside, another crystal tower collapsed with a sound like thunder. "Someone has to hear us." The officer's fingers trembled as he activated the long-range transmitter. "Elder, we've been broadcasting for 2 days. No one is coming." Vextai closed his eyes. The Scourge had already destroyed 12 other worlds. Each time, the peaceful species begged for help. Each time, everyone was too afraid to respond. The galaxy had learned to run from the Scourge, not fight them. The transmission went out again across space. "This is Elder Vextai of the Valari Confederation. Our world is under attack by the Scourge. We are a peaceful people with no weapons or defenses. We beg any civilized species to help evacuate our survivors. We have children, elders, and families who have done nothing wrong. Please, if anyone can hear this message, we will honor your kindness forever." The elder's voice broke as he watched more of his people die. The Scourge moved through the streets like a black tide, turning everything into nothing. Parents grabbed their children and ran, but there was nowhere safe to go. "Maybe the Zentari will send a few cargo ships," the communications officer said hopefully. "They've traded with us for 50 years. Vextai shook his head sadly. The Zentari were merchants, not warriors. They would be too scared to come close to a Scourge attack. Maybe they would send 1 or 2 small ships to pick up a few survivors, if they felt brave enough." The building shook as something massive hit it. Through the crystal walls, they could see the Scourge getting closer. These creatures looked like giant insects, made of living darkness, but they moved wrong, like they didn't follow the same laws of physics as everything else. "Keep sending the message," Vextai whispered, holding his daughter's picture. "Someone has to care enough to help us." But deep in his heart, he knew the truth. The Scourge had never been defeated. Every species in the galaxy was too afraid to even try. The Valari would die alone, just like all the others before them. The transmission continued its lonely journey through space, carrying the desperate hope of a dying world. The stars above Valari Prime suddenly disappeared. Elder Vextai looked up through the crystal dome and saw something that made his heart stop. Enormous metal ships blocked out the sky, bigger than entire city districts. They had appeared from nowhere, dropping out of hyperspace like thunder. "What are those things?" whispered the communications officer, staring at his screens in shock. The ships were unlike anything in their galactic databases. While most civilized vessels looked smooth and elegant, these were covered in strange bumps and spikes. Weapons. Hundreds of weapon systems pointed in every direction. Each ship bristled with more firepower than the entire Valari defense network had ever possessed. At the monitoring station across the city, Operator Nelvi was shaking so hard she could barely read her instruments. "Elder, these ships, they're massive. The largest one is 30 times bigger than our biggest transport vessel." Vexti felt sick. Had they called for help only to bring something worse than the Scourge? These ships looked like they were built for one purpose: destroying things. Then, the radio crackled to life. "Valari Command, this is Captain Lee Do-haeon of the Korean Defense Fleet. We received your distress call." The voice was calm, speaking in perfect galactic standard. But there was something in the tone that made everyone in the room go quiet. This being sounded like they had seen war before, many times. "We're here to help," the voice continued. "Permission to engage hostile forces." Nelvi looked at her scanner readings and gasped. "Elder, they're reading the Scourge positions. Their sensors they're more advanced than anything we've ever seen." Vextai grabbed the communication device with trembling hands. "This is Elder Vextai. You said Korean Defense Fleet. What species are you?" "We're humans, Elder. We come from a world called Earth in the Outer Rim territories." The room fell silent. Everyone had heard whispers about the Outer Rim. That's where the Deathworlds were. Planets so dangerous that only the most violent species could survive there. Civilized beings avoided that region of space entirely. Humans. Vextai's voice was barely a whisper. But Deathworlders don't. You don't involve yourselves in galactic affairs. Captain Duhayan's laugh came through the speaker, but it wasn't cruel. It sounded almost warm. "We don't usually get invited to the civilized parts of the galaxy. But when someone's in trouble, we come running. That's just who we are." On the scanner, Nelvi watched in amazement as the human ships moved into attack formation. They moved like they had done this 1,000 times before. "Elder, they're positioning themselves between us and the Scourge. They're actually going to fight them." Vexti couldn't believe what he was hearing. For 50 years, the Scourge had terrorized the galaxy. Every species ran from them. No one had ever tried to fight back. But these humans were talking about engaging them like it was just another day. "Captain Duhayan," Vextai said, "the Scourge have never been defeated. They destroy everything they touch. Are you certain about this?" The human's voice came back steady and sure. "Elder, we've been fighting things that want to kill us since the day we learned to walk. This is what we do." Communications officer. Park Minru's face appeared on the main screen, and Elder Vexti was surprised by how normal she looked. The human had 2 eyes, a nose, a mouth, not so different from many galactic species. But when she spoke, her words painted a picture of something terrifying. "Elder, let me explain why we're not afraid of your Scourge problem," she said with a small smile. "On our world, Earth, everything wants to kill you, and I mean everything." Vextai leaned forward, confused. "I don't understand. Surely civilized worlds have some safe areas." Park Minru laughed. "Our weather can freeze you solid or cook you alive. We have storms that can level entire cities. Our animals." She shook her head. "We have creatures with enough poison to kill. 100 beings, others with teeth longer than your arm. Some of our fish can bite through metal." The Valari in the room looked at each other in shock. What kind of nightmare world had these beings come from? "But that's not even the worst part," Park Minru continued cheerfully. "Our plants try to kill us too. Some inject poison just by touching them. Others drop branches that weigh tons. We even have grass that can cut through skin." Communications officer Nelvi whispered, "How do you survive on such a world?" "We learned to fight back," Park Minru said simply. "Every day on Earth is a battle. So when we meet something like your Scourge, well, it's just Tuesday for us." Colonel Kim Jae-won's voice joined the conversation. His tone was so casual he might have been discussing what to eat for lunch. "Elder Vextai, our species has been at war with our own planet for millions of years. We fought ice ages, volcanic eruptions, diseases, predators, and each other. We've had to become very good at solving problems that want to kill us." "This is madness," whispered one of the Valari technicians. Kim Jae-won heard him and chuckled. "Maybe, but it works. See, most species in this galaxy evolved on nice, safe worlds. When danger comes, you run or hide. That's smart survival, but we couldn't run from our planet. We had to learn to fight everything." The colonel brought up a holographic display showing human military formations. We study every possible way things can go wrong. We plan for enemies we've never seen. We create weapons for problems that don't exist yet. Because on Earth, if you're not ready for the worst thing imaginable, something worse will definitely show up tomorrow. Elder Vexti felt dizzy. You mean your entire species is military? Not exactly, Park Minru said. We have artists, teachers, farmers, engineers. But every human knows how to fight. We have to. It's like breathing for us. Kim Jae-won nodded. Your Scourge are tough, I'll give them that. But they've never fought a species that treats warfare like a science. They've been bullying peaceful civilizations. Now they're about to meet beings who turn violence into an art form. The Valari stared at their screens in growing horror and fascination. These humans spoke of death and destruction the way normal beings discussed gardening. They had turned their terrible world into a training ground, and now they were the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. Don't worry, Elder, Park Minru said gently. We only hunt monsters. The human ships moved, like a pack of hunting wolves. Elder Vext watched from his command center as Admiral Choi, Yunhai's flagship, positioned itself perfectly above the largest Scourge cluster. Every movement was planned, calculated, deadly. All ships, begin formation 7. The Admiral's calm voice echoed across the communication channels. Remember, we've seen their attack patterns from the previous worlds. Exploit weakness points Alpha through Delta. Vexti couldn't believe what he was hearing. You studied our recordings. But those show only defeats and destruction. Exactly, said Commander Han Woo-jin, as his fighter squadron screamed past the viewing dome. Every defeat teaches lessons. Your people saw hopeless battles. We saw training videos. The Scourge had noticed the human fleet now. The black creatures swarmed upward from the planet's surface like angry insects, their movements chaotic and aggressive. They had destroyed 12 worlds using the same terrifying tactics, overwhelming numbers and unstoppable advance. But something was different this time. Fire pattern beta, Admiral Choi ordered. The human weapons didn't shoot randomly like panicked defenders usually did. Instead, they fired in perfect timing, each shot planned to hit exactly where the next Scourge would be. The creature's swarm formations, which had been unstoppable before, suddenly became death traps. How are they doing that? Whispered Communications Officer Nelvi, watching her scanner in amazement. Commander Han's voice came through the com with excitement. The Scourge move in mathematical patterns. They think it makes them unpredictable, but it actually makes them easy to target once you figure out the math. The first wave of Scourge attackers simply vanished. The human weapons cut through them like they were made of paper. What had seemed invincible for 50 years was being destroyed in minutes. Impossible, breathed Elder Vexti. They're actually hurting the Scourge. Not just hurting, Admiral Choi corrected. We're exterminating them. Your recordings showed us they have 3 critical weak points. Previous defenders were too scared or too noble to target them properly. The Admiral's tactical display lit up with targeting data. See, most civilized species try to capture or communicate first. You fight defensively, hoping to minimize damage. We've learned that sometimes the kindest thing you can do is end a fight quickly. Commander Han's fighters dove through the Scourge formations like deadly dancers. Every shot counts, every movement has purpose. We don't waste ammunition or time. When something threatens innocent people, we remove the threat completely. The space around Valari Prime filled with debris that had once been unstoppable monsters. The human fleet worked with machine-like efficiency, each ship covering the others, every attack coordinated perfectly. This is systematic extermination, Nelvi said in wonder and fear. Yes, Admiral Choi replied without shame. The Scourge showed no mercy to 12 worlds. They consumed entire civilizations. We're simply returning the favor, but with better planning. Within an hour, the space battle was over. The creatures that had terrorized the galaxy lay dead in the vacuum. The humans had turned warfare into precise science, and the Scourge had finally met beings who understood violence better than they did. Threat neutralized, Commander Han reported, beginning ground operations to clear remaining clusters. Elder. Vexti stared at the empty space where his nightmares had been, hardly daring to believe what he had witnessed. The transport ships landed in the burning streets of New Crystalline City with thunderous roars. Marine Captain Yoon Soyoung was the first to step out, her heavy boots crunching on broken crystal fragments. Behind her, dozens of human soldiers poured out, moving with deadly purpose through the smoke and flames. A young Valari mother named Kexra cowered behind a collapsed wall, holding her infant close. She had heard the terrible stories about Deathworlders, savage beings who killed without mercy. When the armored human approached, she was certain death had found her. "Hey there," Captain Yoon said softly, kneeling down and removing her helmet. Her face was gentle, with kind eyes that seemed completely different from the terrifying stories. "I'm Soyoung. We're here to get you out of this mess." Kexra stared in shock as this supposed monster carefully lifted her baby, checking for injuries, with surprising tenderness. "Your little one looks healthy," the human said with a smile. "What's his name?" Nexto, Kexra whispered, still unable to believe what she was seeing. "Beautiful name," Captain Yoon said, then spoke into her radio. "Command, we need medical team at Grid 7. Got a mother and infant. Both appear stable, but scared." Suddenly, a horrifying screech echoed through the street. 3 scourge creatures came flowing around the corner like liquid darkness, heading straight for them. Kexra screamed and closed her eyes, waiting for death. The sound that followed was unlike anything she had ever heard. Captain Yoon's weapon roared with mechanical fury, and when Kexra opened her eyes, the scourge were gone. Simply gone. Where they had been, only gray ash remained. "All clear," Captain Yoon said calmly, slinging her weapon and turning back to the Valari with the same gentle expression. "Sorry about the noise. Where were we? Oh yes, let's get you both somewhere safe." Across the city, Sergeant Lee Hoyman was organizing evacuation zones with the same precision he used for battle planning. Team Alpha, secure the school building. Team Beta, clear the medical center. I want every civilian accounted for and moving to the landing zones within 30 minutes. Elder Texra, the city's administrator, watched in amazement as the human sergeant coordinated rescue operations. "How do you manage so many people so quickly?" "Same way we manage everything else," Sergeant Lee replied, helping an elderly Valari onto a transport. "You identify the problem, make a plan, execute the plan, adapt when things go wrong. Doesn't matter if it's a battle or a rescue, organization saves lives." The Valari were witnessing something they had never imagined. These humans moved through the destroyed city like guardian spirits. One moment, they would be gently bandaging a child's scrapes, speaking in soft voices and making jokes to calm frightened families. The next moment, they would hear the approach of scourge units and transform into something terrifying and lethal. "I don't understand," Kexra said to Captain Yoon as they waited for the transport. "The stories say Deathworlders are savage killers." Captain Yoon looked sad for a moment. "We are killers," she said honestly. "We're very good at it. But we choose what we kill. We kill things that hurt innocent people. We kill things that destroy families. We kill monsters so that children like your Nextal can grow up safe." As the last transport lifted off from the burning city, the Valari refugees looked down at the human soldiers still fighting in the streets below. They were beginning to understand that these terrifying beings had a simple code: protect the innocent, destroy the threats. Their violence wasn't random or cruel, it was surgical, purposeful, and always in service of something greater. The medical bay of the rescue ship, Indomitable, was unlike anything young Valari scientist Nexra had ever seen. Soft lighting bathed the room in warm colors, and gentle music played from hidden speakers. It felt peaceful, safe, nothing like the war machines she had expected from Deathworlders. Medic Officer Kong Yuna moved between the wounded with quiet grace. Her hands were steady and gentle as she cleaned cuts and bandaged scrapes. When little Velki cried from pain, Yuna hummed a soft melody that somehow made the child smile. "There we go, brave one," Yuna said, placing a colorful bandage on the child's arm. "All better? Would you like to see something cool?" She pulled out a small device that projected tiny holographic butterflies into the air. Velki giggled with delight, trying to catch them with his small hands. Nextra watched from across the room, her mind struggling to understand what she was seeing. These same gentle hands had been holding a weapon just hours ago. She had seen Yuna through the transport window, firing at scourge creatures with deadly accuracy. "You're confused," Yuna said softly, having noticed Nexra's stare. She sat down beside the young scientist. "I can see it in your eyes." "I don't understand your species," Nexra admitted. "One moment you're killing with terrifying efficiency. The next, you're singing lullabies to our children. How can you be both?" Nina smiled and continued working on a patient's injured leg. "Tell me, Nexra, do you have parents?" "Yes, of course. Would they hurt someone who was trying to harm you?" Nexra thought about her gentle mother and father, both peaceful researchers. "They would try to protect me, but they wouldn't know how. We're not fighters." "Exactly," Yuna said, her voice patient and kind. "Your parents love you, but they never learned to fight. My parents loved me too, but they taught me how to defend what I care about." She finished bandaging the patient and moved to check on an elderly Valari who was having trouble breathing. Her touch was incredibly gentle as she adjusted his oxygen mask. "On Earth, we learn early that love and violence can exist in the same person," Yuna continued. "A mother bear will die to protect her cubs. A father will fight armies to keep his family safe. Love doesn't make you weak, it gives you strength to do terrible things when necessary." Nexra watched as Yuna played peekaboo with a frightened child, making silly faces until the little one laughed. "But you seem to enjoy helping people. This doesn't feel like duty to you." "You're right," Yuna said, her face lighting up. "This is what I love most. Healing people, making them feel better, seeing children smile again. The fighting. That's just what I do so I can keep doing this." She sat down again, looking serious. For a moment, "Nexra, every human learns a simple truth. The universe has beautiful things and terrible things. If you want to protect the beautiful things, sometimes you have to be willing to destroy the terrible ones." Yuna pulled out her medical scanner to check on another patient. "We don't fight because we love violence. We fight because we love peace. We don't kill because we enjoy death. We kill because we cherish life." Nexra felt something shift in her understanding. "So your weapons and your medicine, they're both tools for the same purpose." "Exactly," Yuna smiled. "We fight so others don't have to. We kill monsters so children can sleep safely. Everything we do, even the terrible things, is in service of protecting what we love." The news traveled faster than light across the galaxy. On 1,000 different worlds, beings who had lived in terror for 50 years suddenly stopped what they were doing and stared at their communication screens in disbelief. "The Scourge are retreating," whispered Ambassador Kelther of the Centauri Trade Federation, his voice shaking. "They're actually running away." Fleet Admiral Otayen stood on the bridge of the Soul's Pride, watching the tactical display with satisfaction. The remaining Scourge forces were scattering in all directions, abandoning their attack formations for the first time in recorded history. "Sir, we're receiving transmissions from across the galaxy," reported Communications Officer Park G1. "Everyone wants to know what happened here." Admiral O smiled grimly. "Tell them the truth. The Scourge just learned what it feels like to be prey. On the crystalline homeworld, 3 sectors away, Prime Minister Veltar rushed into the emergency council chamber. "The humans did it," he announced breathlessly. "The Deathworlders from the Outer Rim actually defeated the Scourge in open battle." The council members sat in stunned silence. The Crystallons had lost 2 entire colonies to the Scourge and had been preparing to evacuate their homeworld. "Impossible," said Defense Minister Kuralon. "No one defeats the Scourge. We run, we hide, we hope they move on to other targets." "Not anymore," Veltar replied, activating the holographic display. "Look at this. The humans didn't just fight them, they hunted them, like predators stalking wounded prey." The tactical recordings showed something unprecedented: human ships pursuing fleeing Scourge units across 3 star systems, cutting off escape routes, coordinating attacks with military precision that had never been seen in galactic warfare. Admiral O's voice came through the galactic communication network.com and professional. "All Scourge forces in the Valari sector have been eliminated or driven off. We are now pursuing retreating units to prevent regrouping. Any species with Scourge problems, please transmit your coordinates." On Nexera Prime, elderly scholar Femra looked up from her research with tears in her eyes. She had spent 40 years studying the Scourge attacks, trying to find some weakness, some hope for her people. Now these strange humans had accomplished in days what she thought impossible. "They're asking for coordinates of other Scourge attacks," her assistant reported. "They want to hunt down the remaining swarms." Femra activated her transmitter with trembling hands. "This is Nexora Prime. We have 3 Scourge clusters in the outer moons. Please, if you can help us." Across the galaxy, similar messages flooded. The communication networks, worlds that had given up hope, suddenly dared to ask for help. The Pelorian colonies, the Rex mining stations, the Yeltani research outposts, all sending desperate coordinates to these mysterious humans. Admiral O reviewed the flood of requests with his tactical team. 67 active Scourge infestations across known space, he said thoughtfully. They've been playing hit and run for 50 years, never facing real resistance. "Sir," asked Captain Kim Sujin, "can we really help all of them?" The Admiral's smile was cold and determined. "Captain, my species spent millions of years learning to hunt. We tracked mammoth across ice sheets, wolves through forests, and sharks in deep oceans. These Scourge think they're apex predators, but they've never met humans before." He activated the fleet communication system. "All ships, prepare for extended operations. We're going hunting." For the first time in 50 years, hope spread across the galaxy like sunrise after the longest night. The Scourge were no longer unstoppable monsters. They were prey, being hunted by something far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. The age of cowering and fear was over. The humans had come to hunt. The massive Scourge hive ship died slowly, its black hull cracking like an egg as internal fires consumed it from within. Elder Vextai watched from the observation deck as the last piece of his people's nightmare finally broke apart and drifted into space as harmless debris. Silence filled Valari Prime for the first time in weeks. No more screaming, no more buildings collapsing, no more of that terrible sound the Scourge made when they consumed everything in their path. Just ... quiet. Captain. Li Duhayan found the Elder standing alone on the crystal balcony of the rebuilt command center. The human's armor was scorched and dented from the final battle, but his face looked peaceful, almost relieved. "It's over," Captain Li said simply, standing beside the trembling Valari. Leader Vextaia's hands shook as he stared at the debris field where the hive ship had been. "I don't understand your kind," he whispered. "For 50 years, we believed the Scourge were unstoppable. Every species in the galaxy ran from them, but you hunted them like they were nothing more than dangerous animals." "They were dangerous animals," Captain Li replied calmly. "Very dangerous ones, but animals nonetheless." The Elder turned to look at the human, his large eyes filled with confusion and fear. "You are predators," he said, his voice barely audible. "I've seen what you can do. The way you move, the way you think, the way you kill without hesitation. You're more terrifying than the Scourge ever were." Captain Lee nodded slowly. "Yes, we are predators. We've been predators for millions of years. It's what kept us alive on our world." Vexty stepped back slightly. "Then how do we know you won't turn on us next? How do we know you won't decide? We're just another prey species to be hunted." The human was quiet for a moment, looking out at the space where his ships were helping with cleanup operations. Human soldiers were working alongside Valari civilians, rebuilding damaged structures and clearing debris. Medical teams were still treating the wounded, both human and alien working together. "Elder," Captain Lee said finally, "let me ask you something. When a parent protects their child from a wild animal, are they being cruel to the animal?" "No, they're protecting their family." "Exactly. We hunt monsters, not innocents. There's a difference." Captain Lee pointed to where his Marines were, helping Valari children play in a cleared area, their laughter echoing through the crystal streets for the first time in weeks. "Look at my soldiers," he said. "Yesterday they were killing Scourge with deadly efficiency. Today they're teaching your children games and helping rebuild your cities. Do they look like mindless killers to you?" Vexti watched as Sergeant Park Hyjin lifted a young Valari onto her shoulders, both of them laughing as they collected crystal fragments to rebuild a playground. The same hands that had wielded devastating weapons were now gentle and careful with the delicate alien child. "We learned long ago," Captain Lee continued, "that the strongest predator isn't the one who kills everything it sees. The strongest predator is the one who knows exactly what needs to be killed and what needs to be protected." The elder's fear began to fade as understanding dawned. "You choose your prey. Always," the human said firmly. "We hunt things that hurt innocent people. We protect things that deserve to live in peace. The Scourge chose to be monsters. We chose to be their hunters." Vexti looked at his rebuilt city, at the human and Valari children playing together, at the hope returning to his people's faces. "Thank you," he whispered, finally understanding the difference between a killer and a protector. 3 weeks after the last Scourge hive ship burned, Elder Vexti stood in the human fleet's engineering bay with a proposal that would have seemed impossible just a month ago. Around him, Valari technicians worked side by side with human engineers, their delicate crystal-based technology merging with brutal human war machines. "Captain Lee," Vexti said formally, "the Valari Council has made a decision. We want to join your fleet." Captain Lee Duhayan looked up from a tactical display, surprised. "Elder, you're a peaceful people. Are you sure about this?" "We've learned something important," Vexti replied, watching Engineer Park Jinwoo carefully install Valari shield generators onto a human destroyer. "Peace isn't possible when monsters roam free. We can't fight like you do, but we can help in other ways." The transformation of the human ships was remarkable. Valari crystal technology, designed for beauty and efficiency, was being integrated with human weapons systems designed for maximum destruction. The result was something entirely new, ships that could protect and destroy with equal effectiveness. "These shield harmonics are incredible," Park Jinwoo said excitedly, working with Valari Technician Nexra. "Your crystal matrices can absorb energy attacks and redistribute them as power for our weapons systems." Nexra's large eyes gleamed with enthusiasm. "And your targeting computers are amazing. We could never build weapons this precise, but we can make them even more effective with our energy systems." Word of the human-Valari partnership spread quickly across the galaxy. On dozens of worlds, species that had never considered military cooperation suddenly began sending messages to the human fleet. Captain, Communications Officer, Park Minru, reported, "We're getting requests from the Zentari Trade Federation. They want to offer their fastest ships for reconnaissance missions. The Crystallons are offering their industrial capacity to build more weapons, added another officer, and the Yeltani want to share their sensor technology to help us track remaining Scourge groups. Captain Lee studied the flood of incoming messages with amazement. They're forming an alliance. Admiral Oteam's voice came through the communication system from the flagship. All vessels prepare for hyperspace jump to the Nexira system. We have reports of 3 Scourge clusters threatening civilian populations. In the engineering sections, the combined human Velari teams worked with incredible efficiency. The crystal-enhanced ships were faster, stronger, and more efficient than anything either species had built alone. "It's beautiful," whispered Velari. Scientist Kexra, watching human fighters launch from the crystal-reinforced hangar bays. Death and life, destruction and creation, all working together. Engineer Park Jinwoo nodded, checking the weapon systems one final time. "Your people bring precision and elegance. We bring raw power and tactical knowledge. Together, we're something neither species could be alone." As the combined fleet jumped to hyperspace, heading toward their next battle, the galaxy watched with growing hope. The age of cowering from monsters was ending. In its place came something new, an alliance of species united, not by conquest or greed, but by a simple shared desire to protect innocent life. The Scourge had terrorized the galaxy for 50 years, teaching entire civilizations that some battles couldn't be won. But they had never faced an enemy that turned warfare into art, that treated violence as a tool for justice rather than conquest. The galaxy was learning that sometimes salvation comes with fangs, and sometimes the most dangerous predators make the most reliable guardians. The hunt for the remaining Scourge continued, but now humanity wasn't hunting alone. The real war was just beginning, and this time, the monsters were the ones who should be afraid.